History is often told through battles, politics, and laws. But sometimes, history is best told through something much simpler: food. The year is 1933. The United States is struggling through the Great Depression. Millions are jobless, families are stretching meals, and survival is the word of the day. And yet, in the White House, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, is not just running the country. He is also entertaining foreign leaders, comforting his family, and shaping diplomacy around the dinner table. Every dish that left the White House kitchen told a story. Some foods were humble, connecting Roosevelt with ordinary Americans. Others were extravagant, designed to impress kings and prime ministers. And some were deeply personal, reflecting the president's favorite comfort foods. Today, we're going to take a seat at Roosevelt's table. We'll explore 25 foods that were served at the White House during his presidency. Together, they paint a vivid picture of a nation in crisis, a family under pressure, and a president who understood the symbolic power of food. So sit back, imagine the clinking of silverware, the hum of conversation, and the aroma of these historic dishes, because the White House menu is about to be served. 1. Hot dogs for the King and Queen. The most legendary food moment of Roosevelt's presidency happened in 1939. When King George VI and Queen Elizabeth of England visited, Eleanor Roosevelt surprised everyone by serving hot dogs at a picnic in Hyde Park. Royal guests, used to fine dining, suddenly found themselves holding sausages in buns with mustard. It was bold, casual, and uniquely American. That simple hot dog symbolized democracy, humility, and Roosevelt's knack for turning food into diplomacy. 2. Grilled cheese sandwiches. FDR had a soft spot for comfort food, and grilled cheese sandwiches were among his favorites. Late at night or on casual evenings, the president enjoyed this golden, crispy sandwich paired with tomato soup. It wasn't fancy, but it was warm and satisfying. In a time when America was suffering, Roosevelt's love for such a simple dish reflected his connection to ordinary people who found comfort in the same foods. 3. Scrambled eggs and bacon. Breakfast at the White House was never overly lavish under FDR. He often started his mornings with scrambled eggs and bacon. It was hearty enough to energize him for long days filled with speeches, meetings, and war briefings. Eggs were affordable and widely eaten across America, making his breakfast not so different from what millions of families were having, bridging the gap between president and people. 4. Creamed chipped beef on toast. Known to soldiers as SOS, creamed chipped beef on toast was both a comfort food and a practical dish. The White House served it during Roosevelt's presidency, reminding many Americans of military rations and Depression-era kitchens. It was filling, economical, and easy to prepare. Serving it at the White House wasn't about extravagance, it was about relatability. It showed the president understood what the common man was eating. 5. Virginia ham. For more formal occasions, the White House turned to regional American specialties, and Virginia ham was one of the stars. Cured to perfection and often glazed, it represented the South's culinary heritage. At state dinners, this dish wasn't just about taste, it was about showcasing America's diversity to foreign guests. Roosevelt knew that offering traditional foods like Virginia ham gave visitors a sense of the country's culture and history. 6. Maryland terrapin soup. This dish had been a White House tradition long before Roosevelt, and it carried on into his presidency. Terrapin soup, made from turtle meat, was considered a delicacy and a symbol of fine dining in early America. During formal dinners, serving terrapin soup highlighted the prestige of the White House table. Though unusual today, in Roosevelt's time it was an elegant dish that connected the presidency to past traditions. 7. Fried chicken. Fried chicken was a dish the Roosevelt family enjoyed on less formal occasions. Crispy, juicy, and comforting, it reflected the heart of American home cooking. This wasn't a dish designed to impress foreign dignitaries, but rather to create a sense of warmth at the family table. Even in the grandeur of the White House, fried chicken reminded everyone that sometimes the simplest foods are the most loved. 8. Clam chowder. As a proud New Yorker, Roosevelt loved seafood. Clam chowder was one of his go-to dishes during colder months. Creamy, hearty, and flavorful, it brought the taste of the Atlantic coast right into the White House. For Roosevelt, it wasn't just about taste, it was about identity. This chowder reminded him of home, of his roots, and of the New England tradition he carried with pride. 9. Oyster stew. Oysters were a staple of the Roosevelt menu, and oyster stew was often served at both small family dinners and larger gatherings. The dish combined richness with simplicity, making it versatile for different occasions. During wartime, when rationing made many foods scarce, oyster stew also carried a message: the White House could still enjoy delicacies, but in moderation, balancing luxury with practicality. 10. Lobster Newburg. When it came to impressing high-profile guests, the White House kitchen pulled out lobster Newburg. Made with lobster, eggs, cream, and brandy, this dish was indulgent and sophisticated. Serving it showed that America could hold its own alongside the finest European cuisines. Roosevelt understood that at the dinner table, appearances mattered, and lobster Newburg was a statement of elegance and abundance. 11. Roast turkey with cranberry sauce. Thanksgiving traditions carried on at the White House, even during Roosevelt's presidency. Roast turkey with cranberry sauce was the centerpiece of the holiday meal, just as it was in households across America. By keeping this tradition alive, Roosevelt reinforced a sense of unity with the people. Even in the nation's highest office, the holiday table looked familiar, comforting, and deeply American. 12. Cornmeal muffins. Cornmeal muffins appeared often at breakfasts and lunches. They were inexpensive, filling, and rooted in Southern cooking traditions. In the Depression years, cornmeal was accessible to nearly every family, so including it at the White House table was a quiet nod to shared hardships. Roosevelt's menus often balanced elegance with these humble foods, reminding the country that simplicity was still valuable. 13. Sweet potatoes. Whether baked, mashed, or candied with sugar and butter, sweet potatoes made frequent appearances at the White House. They added color and comfort to meals, especially in winter. Sweet potatoes carried cultural ties to the South and were popular across America. Serving them was both practical and symbolic. They were affordable, nourishing, and yet versatile enough to fit on the presidential table. 14. Mashed potatoes with gravy. Few foods are as universally loved as mashed potatoes with gravy, and the Roosevelt White House was no exception. Smooth, creamy, and paired with rich gravy, they appeared often at family dinners and state meals alike. Potatoes symbolized comfort and consistency, qualities Roosevelt valued in uncertain times. This dish was a reminder that sometimes, the simplest side can steal the show. 15. Macaroni and cheese. Yes, even in the White House, macaroni and cheese was enjoyed. By the 1930s, it had become popular across the country as an affordable yet tasty meal. Eleanor Roosevelt, who was known for advocating economical cooking, made sure it appeared on the family menu. Its presence at the presidential table symbolized practicality, proof that even the most powerful family could enjoy what ordinary Americans loved. 16. Succotash. A dish of lima beans and corn, succotash was especially common during the Depression. At the White House, it carried extra meaning. It showed solidarity with struggling families. It was cheap, healthy, and filling, making it a smart choice at a time of national belt-tightening. When succotash appeared on the Roosevelt table, it wasn't just food, it was a statement of empathy. 17. Roast beef with Yorkshire pudding. For formal banquets with foreign dignitaries, Roosevelt often leaned on traditional European-style dishes like roast beef with Yorkshire pudding. It was hearty, elegant, and familiar to guests from across the Atlantic. Serving this dish struck a balance between showcasing America's culinary talents and respecting European tastes. It was diplomacy served on a plate, and it worked beautifully. 18. Venison. Roosevelt loved the outdoors, and sometimes that made its way into the White House kitchen. Venison, brought from his Hyde Park estate, was occasionally served at family meals. It reflected his love for hunting and his connection to nature. Venison wasn't a regular dish for most Americans, but for Roosevelt, it was personal, a taste of home and his outdoor lifestyle. 19. trout with lemon butter. Fishing was one of FDR's favorite hobbies, and fresh trout often found its way to his plate. Simply cooked with lemon and butter, it was flavorful without being fussy. The dish reflected Roosevelt's personality, practical, straightforward, but deeply connected to nature. Serving trout at the White House showed that not every meal had to be extravagant, sometimes simplicity made the strongest impression. 20. Corn on the cob. In summer, corn on the cob was a favorite at the White House table. Served with butter and salt, it was messy, rustic, and fun. For foreign visitors, it was a surprising dish, not something they expected at a presidential dinner. But for Roosevelt, that was the point. It highlighted the casual, democratic side of America, where even the president enjoyed corn just like everyone else. 21. Apple pie. Nothing says American quite like apple pie. At the Roosevelt White House, it was more than dessert, it was a symbol of identity. Apple pie represented comfort, tradition, and patriotism. Serving it to guests wasn't just about taste, it was about reminding everyone, including foreign leaders, of what America stood for. In troubled times, a slice of apple pie was a slice of hope. 22. Rice pudding. Eleanor Roosevelt was practical in her cooking choices, and rice pudding fit her philosophy perfectly. It was inexpensive, easy to prepare, and nourishing. This dessert wasn't flashy, but it was familiar to millions of families. Its presence at the White House was another example of the Roosevelts choosing simplicity, showing solidarity with ordinary people during difficult economic years. 23. Chocolate cake. Celebrations at the Roosevelt White House often ended with chocolate cake. Birthdays, special events, and holidays all called for this indulgent dessert. For a family under immense public pressure, moments of sweetness mattered. Chocolate cake wasn't just food, it was joy, a way of marking special occasions with something everyone loved. Even presidents need cake, and FDR was no exception. 24. Ice cream. Ice cream was a favorite treat for the Roosevelt family. Vanilla and strawberry were the most popular flavors at the White House. It was served at state dinners, family meals, and casual gatherings alike. Ice cream's universal appeal made it perfect for bridging the gap between luxury and simplicity. Everyone, from presidents to children, smiled at the taste of ice cream. 25. Fruit compotes. To end meals on a lighter note, fruit compotes made with apples, peaches, or pears were often served. These dishes were refreshing, colorful, and elegant. Compotes reflected Eleanor Roosevelt's focus on healthy, practical cooking, while still offering a sense of refinement. They were the perfect balance of luxury and simplicity, a fitting way to end a meal at the White House during Roosevelt's time. So what do these foods reveal about Franklin Roosevelt and his presidency? They show us contrasts. There was grandeur, luxurious dishes like lobster Newburgh and terrapin soup served to impress. And there was humility, succotash, grilled cheese, and hot dogs, connecting the White House to ordinary Americans. Food became more than nourishment. It became diplomacy. A hot dog shared with royalty carried as much meaning as a signed treaty. Apple pie reminded guests of America's spirit. Even rice pudding reflected empathy with families struggling through the Depression. Roosevelt knew that leadership wasn't just about laws and speeches. It was also about the human side, the meals shared, the traditions honored, and the statements made through something as simple as what's on the table. And that's why, even decades later, the Roosevelt White House menu still speaks to us. It's not just a list of foods, it's a reflection of America in its hardest years, and of a president who understood that history could be written in many ways, even with a fork and a spoon.